Are you planning a weekend in Paris but worried about the cost? Well, we just spent 3 days there and I'm breaking down exactly how much we spent, from hotels to meals to everything in between. So be sure to stick around for a full cost summary at the end. Let's start with getting there. We normally score a great deal on flights, but on this occasion we were using up a flight credit which I had, but I won't dive into that now. If you want to know how to find these deals, I'll put up a link to my other video in the comments where I reveal my budget travel booking secrets. So let's jump in and see what we spent once we got to Paris. First up is where we stayed. We booked the Hotel Luxia in Montmartre for £220 for the 3 nights, which translates to just over 70 quid a night. We got that on Expedia. I've seen this place from as low as £45 a night regularly, but this was August, so it's not going to be ridiculously cheap. For me, the main draw was obviously the price, but also the location, as despite having been to Paris before, I'd never been to Montmartre and wanted to be close enough to see the Sacré-Cœur, because it's something that's just out of Paris and I've always managed to miss it. I wouldn't describe it as luxury, but it was clean. It had a 24-hour reception, and a major consideration for me when I'm using Expedia was that I had the option to guarantee a twin-bedded room because I was travelling with Suin. Breakfast was optional, but I never use the hotel for breakfast unless it's in the price, particularly on a city break because there's just so many options in the streets. But yes, I would definitely recommend booking this hotel, and even at 70 quid it represents reasonable value in a city not known for being cheap. I'm not including flights in this, and I'm not including flights and accommodation in my total, as that is a massive variable, but based on a few searches I've done over the last couple of days, you can easily sort yourself out a weekend in Paris from as low as 150 each. If I find a great deal, you never know, it might become a video. As I say, there are cheap hotels in Paris. Formula One chain is very cheap, and it sometimes shows, but you really need to think about the location, because you may save on the hotel, but if you get the right location, most of the places are walkable when you're there. Next up is food. We tried to keep the meals affordable, but still wanted to enjoy some Parisian classics, not to mention the obvious options. Right, so I've decided we're in Paris. It's breakfast time. Let's go for something traditional, where all the French eat. And what are you fancying?
Croissants.
Croissants, the works. Oh look! Da, da, da. McDonald's. There are loads of street cafes doing a basic breakfast, which is essentially a croissant, a coffee and a drink of orange juice. And most places have that option for around about the €5 mark, which is more than enough to start the day. Let's face it, the French have been doing it for years. During our stay, we had a big McDonald's breakfast at €13, a basic cafe breakfast at €5, which kicks in at €10 for the 2 of us, a substantial cafe breakfast on the last day, as I had to have a croque monsieur, which came in at €18 for the 2 of us. That gave us a breakfast total of €41, which isn't bad. Lunch can be done really cheaply. Don't forget, Paris also has supermarkets. You know, we saw a couple of Lidls. We also noticed lots of the locals will go to a bakery, buy a baguette, lump of cheese and go to a park to eat it. And that is a good way of eating on the cheap. Additionally, another money saver is to have your largest meal at lunchtime, because it's often cheaper. Despite being there for 3 nights, we only actually had 2 lunches just because of the way the timings worked. Day 1 we stopped near Père Lachaise and shared 2 starters. And a lovely big bowl of hummus and a large portion of some of the nicest fries I've ever seen. And it was a really nice street cafe, and I had a cheeky pint. The meal came in at €26. Day 2 was the pearl of the holiday for lunch. We sought the advice of a local and discovered the Rue Mouffetard, which is an area not far from the Notre Dame area, and it was all restaurants and gift shops. It was really nice. And we found a fantastic little creperie called Colbet, and they had these stuffed galettes. A galette is just a crepe. If you get a cheese headache, stay away from these things. But Suin also demolished a monster banana and Nutella crepe. I think we have a happy customer here on a banana and Nutella crepe. Funny how she was full a minute ago. Well, I had a cheeky pint. This came in at €22, which was great. But most of the menu items, crepe-wise, started as low as €3 for just a plain sugar crepe, and the stuffed ones started at about 5, which I thought was pretty damn reasonable for lunch. They were big. On the subject of pints, I would say while we're there, I noticed there were some places as low as €4, €4.50, right up to €9. I would say we paid an average of 7, but you know, I'm not a massive drinker, so we didn't really base our decisions on the price of a pint. Now, dinner can be an elaborate affair, or fast food and takeaways, of which there are plenty. On this count, we stuck with what I think was a happy balance of going French for the experience, but keeping the pricing within the realms of common sense. But a great tip is to walk one street back from an attraction, because you normally get better deals. We hit the jackpot on the first night after seeing the Sacre-Cœur. After much walking, I really just fancied a pint, but it does sound like I drink a lot. So took a seat at an amazing little bistro just near the base station of the funicular. By the way, we didn't go on the funicular because I'm tight. Whilst the pint was slipping down, I had a look at his menu and I noticed he had a set menu for €25, which was pretty damn good. And I also noticed foie gras was one of the options. Now, ethically, some people don't like it, but I'd always wanted to try it, and I thought, well, it's already been made, I might as well eat it. And the restaurant was called Le Bart, and I'll let Najib tell you why you should go. Restaurant looks.
Thank you so much.
So if you want to give yourself a plug for why people should come here.
Because we're the best.
Because you're the best.
In the neighborhood.
Your name is?
Najib, and the place it's Le Bart, right in front of the funicular of Montmartre. Voilà.
Yeah.
You can come anytime. Food is good every day.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice time. Yes. Would you like some water while you are eating?
I would like another beer, and
okay.
she would like a glass of water.
Yeah, of course.
great.
Same size, sir?
Oh yes.
Yes, sir.
Right, so I've got the foie gras, and Suin has got the avocado crevette.
It looks like it.
Looks very nice, and with obligatory bread. And he's bringing me beer, which is exactly what I need. Now bear in mind the set meal was €25 with complimentary water, which we could have got away with just a €50 meal, which, coming back to English, is mid-40s. And you know, for a full French experience, that's quite reasonable. You could spend that in a chain restaurant in Birmingham, you know. And that was for the two of us, obviously. But I was on holiday, I fancied a few drinks, and Najib was actually quite generous with a few little extras, as Suin found out. So, Suin, what do you think of cognac? Will this be coming Dad's way?
What happened? No, I mean all good.
Last time it was Calvados, this time it's cognac. It's not spicy.
Ah, okay, but you will.
Oh my God! So obviously I'd leave a tip, so you get the picture. But we had an amazing night with the final bill coming in at €75, which, considering my alcohol consumption, was more than reasonable. For the second night we weren't so lucky. We were near the Eiffel Tower, so most options were pricey. So we stepped a few streets back and found a place that didn't look too expensive, and they ushered us in. And I decided to take this opportunity for Suin to try escargot. To be honest, the overall cost of the meal was, in my opinion, a bit on the high side, considering we didn't have dessert, our mains were just burgers and fries, and I only had one pint. This came in at €75 again. Well, it was actually slightly more, it came in just shy of 80. There wasn't a tip left here, and there are reasons for that. I thought the service was terrible, but anyway, they're not massive on it there, but they do turn their nose up when you don't tip, but their nose was already up. So on the final night, we just happened to be back in Montmartre, so I thought, you know what, go with what you know, and Najib had other options on his set meal, so we decided to go back there. And again, the drinks were flowing, the company was good. If you ever go there, there's a little old lady that goes there that's 92, and she's been going there as long as Najib can remember, and she was so sprightly, you wouldn't know she was in her 90s, so the food there must be good for you. But again, that came in at €75. Now, because we ate well at meal times, we didn't really splurge on snacks. And as for daytime drinking, hydration, Paris has lots of drinking water fountains. So my advice would be to take a water bottle so you can save on that. We did sometimes stop for coffee. This is linked to Suin's toilet habits. Right. Now I love espresso, which is always served with a glass of water, which I was able to give to Suin, so we were able to stop in, use the facilities, top up my caffeine levels, and Suin could still have a drink. But most places were charging between €2 and €2.50 sit down for an espresso. I did notice things like a cafe lait or a cappuccino were considerably more expensive, so if you like your proper coffees, you are going to pay a bit more for that. I would say a cafe lait started at about €4, and the cappuccino was anywhere between €4 and €6 depending on the establishment. But you miss out on the free glass of water if you don't have an espresso, so that's two people, one caffeinated, one hydrated, for about £2 and get to use the toilets. Now I'm not a huge drinker, so we kept my drinking to meal times, but we did stop for cheeky mojitos in Montmartre. So depending on your habits, I'd say budget about €20 just to cover light drinks and hydration. Now getting around Paris is super easy. The most expensive trip we had was from the airport into the city. We flew into Orly, which starts at €10.30. We mainly used the metro, but because we were there in the gap between the Olympics, the metro prices were inflated. But tickets were typically between €2.15 and €4.30 depending on how many stops you were going on. They do a travel card, which I thought was a bit pricey based on the amount of usage we were going to do, and they do like a block of 6 tickets, 10 tickets, so we just bought 6 at a time. But to be honest, Paris is a very walkable city. Now Montmartre isn't exactly in the centre, and I think most of our journeys were on foot. We did catch the metro between Père Lachaise to the Eiffel Tower, and after seeing the Eiffel Tower at night we came back by metro just because it was dark and rainy. I would say our total spend on transport for the weekend was €50, but we did walk lots, and my phone told me that we did 30 kilometres on the Saturday, so if you're not a big walker, expect to spend more on transport. Now attractions and entertainment. Any holiday can be expensive here, and it depends on your tastes again. I pre-booked a lot of my attractions through Viator because then I wasn't thinking about the cost of them while I was there, which I often do that on my holidays. So I've got them out the way, they're prepaid. If something's gone wrong with my finances between then and the holiday, as long as I can afford to eat, I've still got things to do. Now, although I've been before a couple of times, and Suin did as a toddler, we treated this as if it was our first time trip, so we wanted to see the biggies. So Suin has specified she wanted to go to the catacombs, which came in at €29 for an adult and €10 for a child. They were classing a child as under 17, which was a nice touch. In the UK, you go to a lot of events and it's under 12 or even lower. So that was €39 in total. The Eiffel Tower, we were only able to get second floor tickets in advance because this was a little bit of a short notice trip. And to be perfectly honest, I think if you're just going for the experience, the second floor is far enough. It's fairly high up, you get to see a lot. The one thing I remember from going to the top was A, you've got to be lucky with the visibility, and B, everything's really small from up there. And I think we'd had the best view in Paris from Montmartre and the Dome of the Sacré-Cœur anyway. I forgot to mention how much the Eiffel Tower cost. That cost us, Suin's classed as a child there for being under 24, which was nice. So that was €11 and 22 for me. Slightly more expensive because we used the lift, even though she made me use the steps to come back down. So that kicked in at €33. You can save a bit by doing the stairs both ways, but to be honest, it's a lot of stairs. It was a lot of stairs to come down. I wouldn't have liked to have gone up them. Now the Sacré-Cœur itself was free to enter. However, you've got the chance to go up to the top of the main dome, and I personally think it's well worth doing, especially when you consider the price. €7 each, so you're talking €15, and that really is for me one of the best views in Paris. Now the Arc de Triomphe, that's free to see again as well, but there was an option to climb to the top, and this time it came in at €14 for me, but free for Suin. Decide whether or not you want to do it. You've still seen the Arc de Triomphe, but as I say, we don't know when we're going back. We really wanted to hit the biggies. Now I also pre-booked an e-scooter tour with Viator. Now this was probably the priciest experience we booked, and it came in at 60 euros each, so 120 euros. But it's a whole morning's worth of entertainment, so I think that was pretty damn good. And of course, because we chose to walk, there are so many things you see for nothing because you're passing them. We got to do the iconic photo shoot at the Louvre, and many of the churches are free to enter, and some of these are simply stunning. And let's face it, looking at the Eiffel Tower from multiple locations, getting the iconic Trocadero shot, that's also free as well. So I think we went a bit heavy on the attraction spending, but we did a hell of a lot. Our attraction spending came in at 200 euros for the two of us. Now these numbers are sounding a lot, but bear in mind, I'm travelling with my kids, so I'm paying for everything. So you are only talking 100 euros each for 3 days worth of entertainment. That's not bad. Now miscellaneous expenses, the little things add up, but I tend not to spend so much on souvenirs. But Suin has a different approach to this. Her favourite place in most attractions is the gift shop. And I know all too well from having raised 2 kids how expensive this can be. So here's my tip if you're travelling with kids. I tend to give them a budget and say, that's yours, that's for buying crap. Right, and when it's gone, it's gone. I obviously pay for the entrance fees, the food, and sometimes I will buy a nice little something special, but it does tend to cap the expenses of travelling with kids. Obviously if you've got younger kids you haven't got that option, but Suin was able to save enough from the money I gave her to go shopping on her first day back, so she was happy as well. But looking back on my phone, I tapped out about 80 euros of miscellaneous expenses while I was there. That's a massive variable, it depends on you. So I'm going to put up the total breakdown on the screen, and I'm not including the package cost as that is so variable. But if you want the figure, I would say depending on your location, luxury expectations, and of course the size of your group. 2 people are going to pay more per head than 4 people if you're sharing them. But I would budget from between 100 to 300 a head, depending on your options. So that brings the total cost for us to 588 euros across 3 nights. Now we didn't hold back, and we didn't go crazy either. So that converts to just shy of £500, or 250 a head. It sounds like a lot, but it's only 80 quid a head per day to have a really great holiday, and there's no getting away from it. Some of that could have been shaved down a bit. That's how much we spent on a not particularly holding back holiday in Paris. Paris has got a reputation for being one of the more expensive cities in the world, but I wouldn't say it was any worse than London. And if travelling with kids, they do treat that child discount quite well, I think. But to be honest, you could have shaved a hell of a lot off that. But we really wanted to hit everything in this one trip, or everything that was on our target list. We definitely want to go back because we didn't go inside any of the museums or the galleries, so there's a lot to see there. But yeah, at least I know the next time I go away for a weekend, 500 quid will cut it. So if you're enjoying these, please subscribe. I'm spending the next few weeks, months, mainly talking about the financial aspects of travel, because I think that's something that is on everyone's mind at the moment. We all want to travel, we all don't want to spend a fortune. I've already had one up with my formula for finding cheap trips. It's not a hack, it's just common sense and research, and we'll see what I'm coming up with next. I think the next one I'm going to do will be how much we spent on 24 hours in New York. That one will surprise you. So like, subscribe, comment. If you've got any questions, ask them. If you've got any advice, because I'm no expert yet, I'd love to hear it. Thanks ever so much for watching, and that's a wrap.